I've never seen anything like this. That's how Senator Richard Blumenthal described his confrontation with Attorney General Pam Bondi. What happened behind closed doors shocked even veteran lawmakers, and what he says next raises serious questions about power, secrecy, and the rule of law.
Attacking everyone. Her apparent strategy is to attack and conceal. Frankly, I've been through close to 15 of these Attorney General accountability hearings, and I have never seen anything close to it in terms of the combativeness, the evasiveness, and sometimes deceptiveness. I think it is possibly a new low for attorneys general testifying before the United States Congress, and I just hope my Republican colleagues will demand more accountability than we have seen so far. I believe we need legislative reform. We agree on both sides of the aisle that weaponizing justice to target political adversaries or opponents or people disliked by the president ought to stop. And that's why I've introduced legislation that would provide rights to people who are victims of it. It would provide safeguards against it and reform of grand juries to make them more transparent and accountable. We need to come together and stop this kind of absolutely venomous, vile attacks on people who legitimately question whether the Department of Justice has been used for political or personal ends.
But on that note, are you concerned about the information Republicans have released showing that the Biden administration was looking into Republican senators?
I am concerned about any kind of impropriety, and I believe that anything like it should be stopped if there was improper action done by any administration. There ought to be accountability. And that's no excuse for not holding this administration accountable. Two wrongs don't make a right.
The lack of answers to most of your questions from the Attorney General when she says, I can't comment, I can't talk about that. Is that frustrating for you guys?
It's beyond frustrating. It's evasive and irresponsible to refuse to answer basic questions that the Attorney General of the United States owes to the American people. Whether she had conversations with the President of the United States directing her to prosecute political opponents or personal adversaries is something so basic she owes it to the American people, not just to us. And so beyond frustrating, it's frightening that this kind of authoritarian creep of the use of justice should be occurring in plain sight, right before our eyes, in a hearing room, here and now, in real time.
There is a draft memo from the White House suggesting that furloughed workers shouldn't be entitled to back pay. What do you think about that?
The law is they're entitled to back pay. Not surprisingly, the White House, again, is potentially defying the law. But Congress, on both sides of the aisle, should take a stand against denying pay entitled to furloughed workers and to people who are on the job, our military, TSA, air controllers. They all ought to be paid. We all ought to have basic agreement on that point.
Do you think that floating a memo like that could be another attempt to put some pressure on Democrats to just come to the table on
This
the...
administration has spared no effort, none, to be intimidating, to incite fear, and these mass firings are reckless and preventable. They're cruel and stupid. Ultimately, the costs will be higher if there are these mass firings or if pay is denied, because people have rights. They will sue for damages. Ultimately, as happened with Elon Musk, the cost will be greater than any kind of boasted savings. Defying the law ultimately is pretty costly because people are entitled to not only back pay, but potentially to damages.
Senator Hawley says Democratic leaders are telling you guys not to talk to your Republican colleagues. Is that true?
No.
Great.
And the president has also floated invoking the Insurrection Act to send troops into Chicago. What do you think needs to happen there?
Well, I would agree with the judge in Oregon who said she has yet to see any factual basis to bring the National Guard into Portland. The ICE officials there have said that they're doing fine, and that was one of the major reasons she denied or actually ordered that the National Guard not be deployed. So as yet, there is no scintilla of evidence that would justify using the Insurrection Act. There's been no invasion. There's been no rebellion. And the local and state police seem to have situations in Portland, Chicago, and elsewhere under control, and they are the local law enforcers who ought to be relied upon.
Senator, do you want to see the Virginia AG candidate Jay Jones drop out of the race right now after those violent attacks came out?
I'm really not familiar with the situation in Virginia. The AG candidate?
Yeah, Jay Jones, he's said a lot of really violent things about
I'd
former
have to
House
look at
Speaker
what
there.
exactly he said. Thank you all.
Thanks, Senator.
This wasn't political theater. This was a 5-alarm warning from a veteran lawmaker who's seen it all. Richard Blumenthal didn't just criticize Pam Bondi's performance in the Judiciary Committee. He called it evasive, deceptive, and unprecedented in its hostility toward congressional oversight. When an attorney general refuses to answer basic questions about whether the Justice Department is being directed to target political opponents, that's not protecting procedure, that's undermining the rule of law in real time. Blumenthal's message was clear. Accountability isn't optional, and weaponizing justice, no matter who's in power, is a line this country cannot cross. His frustration wasn't partisan, it was institutional. And the most chilling part? This wasn't happening behind closed doors. It was happening in plain sight, with cameras rolling, as the guardrails of democracy were being stress tested. This isn't about left versus right. It's about whether justice answers to the Constitution or to political power.